Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? All right, let's get Mike Triplett, neworleans.football, with us, courtesy of our friends over at Benny's Car Wash. How are you, man?
Doing good. How are you?
I'd be doing a lot better if Erik McCoy were healthy, but such is life, so they got to move on. When you look at the Philly game, were there issues exposed, or was that a symptom of the injuries?
Yeah, a little of both. I mean, it was a shock back to reality, I think.
Yeah.
That this team is just going to be a normal team with ups and downs and not a team that can just, float above the clouds all season long. I don't think that means that, they unlocked it and now every team can do it. Philly, Vic Fangio has a history of being good at that. Jalen Carter played outstanding. And Erik McCoy was missing after the third play, so they didn't have a week's game plan for it. And now they might be without Erik McCoy and Cesar Ruiz, so it's not going to get any easier. But this offensive line also was always going to be a huge question mark, and it was amazing that they were able to scheme their way around it in weeks 1 and 2 to the high level that they did. But this was a reminder that, no, that is going to continue to be the biggest weakness of this team, and it's going to be a fight every week to work their way around it.
Can you shed any light on what's going on with Ruiz and that knee?
It doesn't sound like it's major, but I don't know the exact significance of it. So it's hard for me to say if it's 1 to 2 weeks, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. I do not think it's major, though. And if they don't put him on IR by Saturday, which I'm not anticipating, then that would confirm that diagnosis.
Do you have a feeling, and it's okay if the answer is no, about whether or not he'll play this weekend against Atlanta?
I don't. I do not think he's going to play this week.
Okay, so what does the offensive line shuffle look like then if there's no McCoy and no Ruiz?
Yeah, so they got a couple options. Lucas Patrick is their most veteran sort of option at center, but he's also their starting left guard. So we saw him move over to center during the game. They could do that again, or they could bring Shane Lemieux up from the practice squad. Well, he's already been activated. He was the corresponding move when Erik McCoy went on IR. He could start at center, and Patrick could stay at left guard. So either one of those is an option. And then at right guard, you've got Landon Young or Oli Udoh or Nick Saldiveri. So they have a lot of options, just none of them obviously great.
Oh, man. Maybe the saving grace is Atlanta's expected to be without a couple of offensive linemen this week as well.
I mean, same thing. Yeah, their center went on IR the same day McCoy went on IR, and their right tackle, Caleb McGarry, is also a big question mark, and that would be the equivalent of losing Ruiz. So they are in the same boat there.
Yeah. If we keep it on the offensive side, Mike, they are getting Taysom Hill back. How significant do you think that is this week against Atlanta?
I mean, I think it's significant, especially since Alvin Kamara's banged up, even though he returned to practice. And it sounds like he's going to try to play. I don't know if he'll be limited, but, they need other options. Alvin Kamara had 29 touches last week. It's just ridiculous amount for him. And Jamal Williams hasn't broken through, even in these games where the offense is lighting it up. Kendry Miller's not ready for at least another week. So you really need him. And then, obviously, that's just Taysom Hill as a part of the run game. Taysom Hill has the distraction that defenses have to worry about where he's lined up and all the things you can do with him and motion him and everything. Obviously that's great. I mean, can he do that if the blocking is not great? I don't know, but, it would have been nice to have him on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 last week. That's for sure.
Golly. Did you have a feeling on that decision?
Yeah, we talked about it in the press box. We talked about it before. We had a whole quarter break because it was the first play of the fourth quarter to discuss the pros and cons of it. And of course, you had to think, take the points. It's 3-0, and you can't. Your offense sucks so bad in this game, you can't count on them to get a yard. So, sure, I totally understand everyone who felt that way. Go up 6-0. But I have always been, even when coaches go for it from their own 25-yard line on 4th and 1, I have always been if you can't get a yard, what are we even talking about here? Like, trying to fake your way to a win? Like, what could happen later in the game that is easier than getting a yard? You need your defense to get stops. You need your offense to go all the way down the field and get another field. You need 1 yard. If you're going to tell somebody, no, it's impossible to get a yard, then you might as well forfeit the game.
Well, something easier is a chip shot field goal. Give you 3 points.
Yeah,
I was firmly in the camp of take in a defensive game. Take the points. What's that?
6-0's not going to win a game.
No, but it does change the math though. Late, for example,
it does.
So anyway, I understand. I can understand arguments either way.
I guess my point is, I'm never ever going to blame any coach ever for going for a 4th and 1. I mean, it's a yard.
You and I will be on staunchly opposed sides of that fence.
Yeah.
All right. Mike Triplett's with us at Mike Triplett, neworleans.football, Benny's Car Wash. We'll get it back to this weekend with Atlanta. I say we'll get it back to this weekend, but I want to talk about last year. So, do you feel like what happened last year, the finish against Atlanta, Jameis calling his own play, all that stuff, do you feel like that lingers on Sunday?
No, I say no way. Maybe if Arthur Smith was still the head coach, he'd be perturbed about it. But, I mean, especially since it was clear that it was something players decided to do in the huddle. Should they be mad at Jameis? He's not here either. I don't know who would be mad about it. You know what I mean? There's just too much that doesn't carry over for me.
Let's talk about the defense, Mike. The defense was good for 3 quarters. Anything you saw there in the 4th quarter, especially with Dallas Goedert, that gives you cause for concern?
Yeah, for the most part, it was two single-play mistakes. They were huge mistakes. You cannot, in that game, man, you got to make it be a 10-play drive. You cannot give them 60-yard plays in a game where they couldn't score the entire day.
Yeah.
So that's gut-wrenching. Barkley started to find some seams in the defense throughout the 3rd quarter, too. It was like the first half, I think he had 5 carries for 17 yards. They did fantastic against the whole run game. In the 3rd quarter, he was starting to hit them for 8 yards here, 9 yards here. They were starting to move the ball. So he saw, all right, they're getting run down a little bit by him. And then he finally broke through for the 65-yard run in the 4th quarter. But in general, I think that's the toughest run game they're going to face all year, the Hurts-Barkley combo. And it felt like they were doing a good job if they could have just held on to prevent one 65-yard run. And then obviously the Goddard play was just a huge mistake by a player. They were double covering the guy that did it. They were aware he was the guy to be careful of. And the safety who was double covering ran into the cornerback in the middle of the field, and that knocked the cornerback who was following him out of the play. It was 2 just colossal mistake plays. But those can happen. We didn't. I can't remember if I said it on your show. I think I did say it on your show last week when you were like, any other concerns? I'm like, yeah, they gave up a 61-yard touchdown pass to CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
We'd be dwelling on that in a different game, and it became like oh, yeah, I forgot that happened.
Yeah,
moment.
You did.
They do happen.
Winning, I say it all the time, Mike, winning masks deficiencies and losing magnifies them. And so you blow out Dallas, you forget about that 65-yarder where you whiffed on anyway. But yes, it came back to bite you against Philly. A couple more for you. Mike Triplett's with us on Twitter at Mike Triplett. neworleans.football. Our chat every week is brought to you by Benny's Car Wash. Get a Benny's Car Wash membership if you don't yet. It's like the best $16 a month you'll spend. With Kirk Cousins, does the Atlanta matchup look any different than it would have when you're game planning for this team a year ago?
Oh, yeah. 1,000,000%. They have a quarterback. They used to play 10 versus 11 with no quarterback. Atlanta was unbelievable in the past. That's the reason why to win the division going into this year is they have really assembled a lot of young talent on that offense, and their defense is decent. And and they had 2 guys taking turns, and totaling the 32nd best quarterback play in the league last year. So if Cousins is just playing as well as the 24th best quarterback in the league, their leads and bounds better. And obviously we've seen Cousins be a top 10 caliber quarterback in his prime, although obviously really concerning how little he was able to move around in week 1. That's gotten a little better. He doesn't look completely in rhythm. So I don't think you're getting prime Kirk Cousins, but you're getting functional play at quarterback, and that drastically changes this team from a year ago.
Yeah, I would never say, Mike, that week 4 is a must-win for any team. So I'm not saying that here. But how significant, for the variety of reasons, the injuries, you kind of blew one last week at home, next week you're at Kansas City. Give me some context on how significant you think this one is Sunday.
Yeah, I think week one was a must-win.
That's fair.
That was a legitimate must-win in September. I can't put that on this. I mean, first of all, there's excuses if you lose. So you're not going to lose morale. You're not going to lose buy-in. People will understand that, you had a bad offensive line to start with, and now you took your two best offensive linemen away from it. I'm not worried about the season crumbling, the goodwill crumbling, the momentum, all that crumbling with a loss. But I don't like that it's at Atlanta, at Kansas City on Monday Night Football, and then versus Tampa Bay on a short week following that Monday night trip to Kansas City. Then Denver at home on an even shorter week on Thursday Night Football. I mean, it's a brutal schedule. We talked about that a lot. So you got to find 2 over the next 4, I think.
Okay.
I think you got to be, I say 2 over the next 4. You got to find 1 over the next 4. I think if you're 3 and 4, and you know how good this team is capable of being, it's still afloat. But, they're going to magnify each time you don't win one. If you don't beat Atlanta and then you don't beat Kansas City, now all of a sudden you've got a 3-game losing streak. It's just, there'd be so much relief if you got this win and you're like, all right, now we bought ourselves some breathing room. But not must win.
Mike Triplett, neworleans.football, courtesy of our friends over at Benny's Car Wash, bennyscarwash.com. If you want to go learn more, get that Benny's Car Wash membership. It's the best $16 a month. And they have higher memberships you can do if you want the whole interior clean and everything, variety of different ones. But go to bennyscarwash.com. They're a proud partner of LSU Athletics, bennyscarwash.com. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment every week. Mike, you're the best, man. We always appreciate a couple of minutes. We'll do it again next week.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.